Alex opened his eyes to a world that wasn't his. The room was dimly lit and the air felt different, heavier, almost ancient. He blinked a few times, trying to shake off the remnants of sleep, but the unfamiliar surroundings remained. The familiar glow of his alarm clock and hum of the air conditioner were gone. He strained to hear any sound that might anchor him to his reality, but there was nothing, just an eerie silence. Instead, sunlight slipped through a wooden shutter, illuminating dust in the air. The light was soft, almost golden, casting long shadows across the rough wooden floor. He sat up, heart pounding. This wasn't his bedroom. The bed creaked under his weight, and he could feel the uneven texture of the straw mattress beneath him. The walls were rough wood and plaster, the air thick with the scent of earth and smoke. It was a stark contrast to the clean, sterile environment he was used to. He looked down. Gone were his pajamas, replaced by a scratchy brown tunic. The fabric was coarse against his skin, and he could feel every seam and stitch. His bed was a sack of straw, not a mattress. The straw poked through the thin fabric, making it impossible to get comfortable. Panic surged. Where was he? His mind raced with possibilities, each more terrifying than the last. He stumbled onto a cold stone floor, surveying the small, dim room. A bucket, a stool, a blackened fireplace. Everything looked primitive, like something out of a history book. No electricity, no posters, nothing familiar. It was as if he had been transported to another time. He pinched himself. Ouch. The pain was real. This wasn't a dream, and the realization hit him like a ton of bricks. He opened the shutter and peered outside. The world beyond was just as alien as the room he had woken up in. No cars, no paved streets. Just muddy lanes, thatched huts, chickens in the dirt. The village looked like it had been plucked straight out of the Middle Ages. A woman in a long dress carried buckets on a yoke. She moved with a practiced grace, her face lined with years of hard work. This wasn't his neighborhood. This wasn't his century. The realization was both awe-inspiring and terrifying. Had he been kidnapped? Was this a dream? His mind struggled to make sense of the impossible. He remembered falling asleep to TV, but now he was here, in a world out of a history book. The contrast was jarring, like stepping into a different reality. Fear gripped him. He was alone, lost, and trapped in a time not his own. The weight of his situation pressed down on him, making it hard to breathe. He had no idea how he'd gotten here or how he'd get back. The uncertainty gnawed at him, each unanswered question a new source of anxiety. The reality pressed in. This was no dream. Every detail, every sensation confirmed it. He was a stranger in a forgotten world. The people, the customs, everything was foreign to him, and he had to survive. He took a deep breath, steeling himself for whatever challenges lay ahead. This was his new reality, and he had to find a way to navigate it. A gruff voice jolted Alex from his thoughts, snapping him back to the present with a start. The cold stone walls and the faint smell of smoke reminded him he was far from home, in a world that felt both ancient and unfamiliar. Thomas the blacksmith, stern and bearded, entered the room with heavy footsteps that echoed off the wooden floor. His presence filled the small space, radiating authority and a kind of rough warmth that Alex had never encountered before. "Up, boy! The sun waits for no one!" Thomas barked, his voice carrying the weight of routine and necessity. Outside, the village was already stirring, the first rays of sunlight creeping over thatched rooftops as people began their daily toil. They'd found Alex near the woods, disoriented and alone, and assumed he was a runaway apprentice from a distant village. The villagers whispered about him, curious and wary, but Thomas had taken him in without hesitation. Thomas and his wife Alara were kind, but strict, their lives shaped by hardship and routine. They offered Alex shelter and food, but expected him to work hard and follow their rules, just like any other member of their household. Breakfast was a meager affair, hard bread that scraped his gums and watery porridge that barely filled his stomach. It was nothing like the warm, plentiful meals he remembered from home, and each bite reminded him of everything he'd lost. Alex tried to explain he was from the future, desperate for someone to believe him, but his words only brought worried glances and whispered conversations. They thought he was feverish, perhaps touched in the head by some illness. Realizing the truth would never be understood, he learned to pretend, claiming memory loss and confusion. It was easier to let them believe he'd forgotten his past than to keep insisting on a story no one could accept. Life here was a daily struggle, drawing icy water from the old well, braving the foul-smelling outhouse and scrubbing his skin raw with harsh lye soap. Every task was harder than anything he'd known, and comfort was a distant memory. Nights were pitch black, broken only by the flicker of a single candle and the distant, haunting cries of animals in the darkness. The silence pressed in, making the world feel vast and empty. Loneliness pressed in on Alex, heavier with each passing day. The faces of his family and friends grew hazy in his mind, their voices fading like echoes from another life. Every day was a lesson in survival, learning to chop wood, mend clothes, and help with endless chores. The village moved to a rhythm he struggled to understand, but he had no choice but to keep up. The world he knew, of bright lights, warm showers, and familiar faces, felt impossibly far away, like a dream he could barely remember. Yet, as the days passed, Alex realized he would have to find a way to survive in this world before yesterday. Thomas put Alex to work in the forge. No school, no games, just labor from dawn to dusk. Pumping the bellows, hauling charcoal, tending the fire, his body ached, hands blistered. He learned to respect the fire, the hammer, and the rhythm of medieval life. Chores filled every hour, gardening, feeding animals, chopping wood. Slowly, Alex grew stronger, adapting to a world ruled by muscle and sun. As Alex settled in, he noticed the village's gossip. Lately all talk was of a witch in the woods, a woman with strange herbs and uncanny knowledge. Some said she healed the sick, others whispered of dark powers. The villagers feared her, especially her odd clothes and a black stone that captured sunlight. Alex's heart raced. Was it a phone? A solar charger? Maybe he wasn't the only one from another time. But fear was growing, and the priest called her a servant of the devil. Alex knew he had to find her, but seeking the witch could be deadly. Still, she might hold the key to going home. Alex seized his chance to find the witch while gathering wood. He slipped into the forest, following a wisp of smoke to a hidden cottage. There, a young woman, Alara, sat with a solar panel and power bank beside her. Relief flooded Alex. "You're like me," he stammered. Alara, a historian stranded by a failed experiment, welcomed him. She'd survived using her knowledge, mistaken for witchcraft. For the first time, Alex wasn't alone. They shared stories of the world they'd lost. Hope flickered, maybe together they could find a way home. Alara's cottage was a marvel of hidden technology and survival. She warned Alex their secret was deadly if discovered. Alex visited often, learning history, botany, and how to blend in. But villagers grew suspicious of his trips to the woods. Whispers spread he was the witch's apprentice. Thomas grew distant, the priest fanned paranoia. When a child was healed by Alara's willow bark tea, fear turned to rage. The villagers saw it as proof of sorcery. The priest called for action. The mob's anger was rising. Alara and Alex's secret was about to explode. Danger was closing in. The village erupted in fury. A mob formed, torches blazing. Alex ran to warn Alara. "They're coming!" Calm but urgent, Alara gathered her precious tech. "We can't outrun them. This is a last resort," she said, revealing a silver device. The mob crashed into the clearing, shouting for blood. Alara pressed a button on the device. For a moment, nothing happened. Then a piercing whine filled the air, the device's crystal glowing blinding blue-white. Light exploded, swallowing the world. Alex felt himself pulled apart, reality dissolving. The mob, the forest, everything vanished in a flash. He was falling through darkness. The world went silent, and then, nothing. Alex tumbled through endless blackness, his senses assaulted by a kaleidoscope of swirling colors and streaks of light. The sensation was dizzying, as if he were being pulled apart and reassembled in 1,000 different ways at once. He couldn't tell if he was falling, flying, or simply floating in a void that had no up or down, no beginning or end. The rush of wind roared in his ears and his heart hammered in his chest. Was this death, or was it some strange in-between place, a limbo where time and space twisted together? Panic threatened to overwhelm him, but curiosity flickered beneath the fear. Or something else entirely? Suddenly, everything stopped. The world snapped into stillness, and Alex felt suspended in a single, breathless moment. Silence pressed in, heavy and absolute. Then sensation returned. He felt the softness of sheets beneath him, the familiar weight of his blanket, and the sharp, insistent beep of his alarm clock cutting through the quiet. He opened his eyes, blinking against the morning light. His own room, his own bed, everything exactly as it should be. The posters on his wall, the clutter on his desk, the faint hum of his computer in sleep mode. Pajamas tossed carelessly on the bed, his laptop still open from the night before. It was all so normal, so mundane, that for a moment he wondered if he'd imagined everything. The morning sun streamed through the window, painting golden patterns on the floor. Relief washed over him, but it was quickly chased by disbelief. Had it all been a dream? The fear, the colors, the sensation of falling, could it really be explained away so easily? He sat up, running a hand through his hair, trying to shake off the lingering sense of unreality. It had to be a dream, he told himself. Nothing else made sense. But as he stumbled to the bathroom to wash his face, something caught his eye. A leather cord tied tightly around his wrist, knotted in a way he didn't recognize. It wasn't his. He was certain of it. He tugged at the knot, trying to loosen it, but it wouldn't budge. A chill crept up his spine, prickling his skin. Dreams, he realized, don't leave behind souvenirs. This was real. As he glanced around his room, unease settled in his chest. It felt as if something unseen lingered in the corners, watching him. Something had followed him back. The past, it seemed, wasn't finished with him yet, and Alex knew, deep down, that his journey was only just beginning. Alex drifted through his day, everything familiar, yet changed. He hugged his parents, grateful for every detail of home. The leather cord on his wrist was a constant reminder. He woke at sunrise, noticed the grain of wood, felt new strength in his arms. The experience had changed him. That night, unable to sleep, he found a tiny parchment hidden in the knot. Unfolding it, he read 3 words in Alara's handwriting. "They are coming." Fear returned. His journey wasn't over. Time was unstable. Someone or something was moving through it. And now, they were coming for him. The adventure had only begun. Alex braced himself for what was next.